It's 7 o'clock. Call the roll. We have a quorum.
Mr. Griffin.
Present.
Dr. Matusik.
Here.
Mr. Simrod.
Here.
Mr. Lau.
Present.
Mrs. Charmison. Here.
Welcome to our visitors. And you may have been going to say this later on in your superintendent's, but welcome to the Technology Leader of the Year, Mr. Cameron. Oklahoma Society for Technology and Education. Did you get a plaque?
I did.
All right.
I did.
And school board recognition. What more could you?
There you go. Exactly.
Public comments. Comments regarding agenda items. I believe you all are free to speak if we allow, and nobody signed up 48 hours prior.
No, sir.
Let us have item 3, and that is our presentation from Angel Johnston and Blassingame regarding our current audit report.
All right, very good. It's good to be with you all tonight. My name's Evan Blassingame. I was one of the lead partners on your audit engagement for your June 30th, 2024 year end. What you should have in front of you, what I passed out, is a copy of our full audit report that gets issued to the State Department of Education. That's available to the public as well, with our opinion on your financial statements. And also you've got a few pieces of paper there of a letter that just states what our responsibilities are as your auditor, what your responsibilities are as the auditee. Every year, you know, our responsibility, we are engaged to come out here to give you an opinion on your financial statements. We do that by sampling, tests, we use professional judgment, analyze your financial statements so that in that report when we issue, we can give an opinion to the public. Are the financial statements that you all have provided reliable or are they not? I'm happy to say and pleased to say that again that we feel like your financial statements are reasonably presented, that anybody from the general public, if they were to look at the audit report issued with your financial statements, they'd have a very good idea of the financial position that you all are in here at Hennessey Public Schools. And so I'm proud to say that we've given you a good opinion on your financial statements again this year. In that packet that I've provided you, about that second or third page over, there is some financial information as well, comparative year, fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24. I always like to go over some of this with you all and answer any questions that you may have regarding this information. But you can see at the top, it's got your fund balances there, general fund, building fund, child nutrition fund. Between fiscal year 23 and 24, general fund balance was down little over $500,000. Building fund balance decreased a little over $39,000. Child nutrition fund decreased as well, $65,000. Breaking that down a little farther into the general fund, looking at revenues and expenditures, we can take a look at your revenue sources by local sources there. Local sources you collected in 24 was up a little over $568,000. A lot of that was prior year 2023 tax money that was being protested came through in fiscal year 24. And so there was a boost to that. County sources, 4 mil tax was up just a little bit. One of the biggest changes from year to year revenue-wise was in your state sources. You can see that was a $2.1 million decrease. That was a large decrease in gross production tax. Gross production tax was down statewide this year, and your collections comparative to 23 and 24, your gross production tax was down $2.1 million. Everything else kind of fluctuated up and down to even that out, but gross production tax took a big hit in fiscal year 24. And then federal sources down here, a large chunk of that was COVID money that kind of ended in 2024 that you all were not spending anymore and receiving. And so that was the source of the decrease there. Expenditures up here in your district, a large majority of that in the general fund. Increase in expenditures of $830,000. A big chunk of that is payroll. Your payroll was up here in the district $700,000 in fiscal year 23 compared to 24. The majority of that being spent right here in the general fund. You also had some daycare repairs, LED lighting in the auditorium, some expenditures that you spent in 24 that were not reflected, was not spent in 23. Building fund revenues up quite a bit there. The biggest portion of that $739,000 increase was interest that you all placed in the building fund. Interest rates and all the deposits were up on checking accounts, saving accounts of your deposits at the bank. You have not allocated some interest to the building fund in years past, but there was $650,000 of interest that was placed in that building fund in '24, and you had zero in 2023. Large expenditure amount as well, expenditures in the building fund up $1.1 million. Most of that, the majority of that, was due to your bus barn renovations that you did in fiscal year '24. Child Nutrition Fund revenues and expenditures both down a little bit. Once COVID had ended paying for all children to eat free, there's just been kind of a decrease in revenues in the Child Nutrition Fund based on the local collections and then the children who are going through those lines and then getting reimbursed for federal money as well. And so a slight decrease there in your child nutrition revenues. Same with the expenditures. A large chunk of that actually was some payroll. You paid 3 less cooks in the Child Nutrition Fund out of that in '24 as compared to '23. Is there any questions I can answer over anything there, comparative financial wise? I'm also pleased to say that usually there's a page behind this as well of a few findings that we've come along during our testing, during our sampling. I'm happy to say that I don't have any of those for you all this evening. Doesn't mean that everything was perfect, but I didn't feel like there was anything warranted to bring before we need to come back and look a little harder. There wasn't anything that I felt warranted you all's attention tonight, and so there are no further findings from this information. I will say that it's always a joy to come out here and work. Mr. Sternberger and Ginger and Timberly always have things ready for us. It makes our job easy to come and take a look at the records that we need to. Questions are always asked, are always answered when we ask, and so it's always easy to come out and do the work that's needed here, and so the staff is always very helpful in providing the information that's needed, and so I want to commend them on that as well.
Commend them. I commend Timberly and Ginger and Randy on that because
Yeah,
not
they do.
only,
And there are board members that come and answer questions.
Yeah.
well, there you go. I think in the 20 years of getting this, like he says, they can find something. These girls have had that note where nothing been on there 2 out of the 4 years since I've done that, or been around, so that's pretty impressive. One thing too I'd like to point out, that he mentioned that $800,000 in that pay raises. That was the state pay raises that was implemented. That wasn't us over hiring. That was the state pay raises, and if you'll remember, since we're off the formula, we didn't get the full money for that like other schools. We only got $339,000. So for gross production to drop 2.1, only collect 400,000 of that. Now we're also out of federal money. It is in that time that gross production makes a difference. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later, but I wanted to hit on that as to why that it's not, oh my gosh, we're overstaffed and we hired. But it's just, that's what it was.
Any other questions tonight? All right, well, thank you all for your time. If you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to our office. I'll be happy to visit with you anytime.
Thanks, Evan.
You bet.
Consent agenda item 4.1 through 4.4. Are there any items that any member chooses to pull out for further discussion?
I have none.
Seeing none, I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mr. Simrod.
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charles. Yes.
Item 5, new business.
No new business to act upon.
Superintendent's report.
So I didn't have a lot, and you took one of my items, recognizing Todd. I can say this, the same day that he won that, he also, in our region, was nominated to become All-State Coach. Is that correct? Is that how, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Overachiever.
Yeah, so he did have that too. And just a couple of little local, things going on. Junior high basketball starting tonight. They're opening up with Fairview. And then high school football is at Davis this Friday for first round playoff game. So Friday at 7. So
That's a fun place to go.
mm-hmm.
That's a fun place to go.
And that's all I have.
That's all. All right, item 7 is personnel and a proposed executive session to discuss salary benefits of certified and support personnel. I will move to enter into executive session.
So, did you get my email today, Mr. Griffin? Okay. I don't think we can.
Okay, well, I mean,
This,
since
I want
it's
to,
still
I want
in
to
there.
clarify what that says, and this is the email I sent to you as well, Mr. Lau. So, on here where I stated it, that we're talking about certified personnel reports on negotiations, I always send that off to OSSBA when we have executive sessions. I just didn't hear back from them until after the agenda had posted. And the only time you can actually do that is when you're negotiating with a union. So I thought I was kind of negotiating on their behalf and talking. So that's not something that we can go into executive session on that part of it. So I thought it was any time that you were doing that. So learn something new on that. So for the sake of transparency, we'd better stay in open
For
session.
lack of a second, that motion
Fails.
fails. Item 7.2 is discussion of possible board action regarding the benefits that we did not talk about in an executive session regarding certified employees and support.
So benefits, one of the things I left out when I was talking about the 800,000 on pay raises, you also remember the year before, we picked up the 7% teacher retirement that we're paying their portion of that 7%. So every employee is getting an extra $2,500 to $3,500 in their pocket already. But what I wanted to revisit is the stipends that we've been able to get since I've been here the previous 3 years. I'm not sure prior to that, Timberly, you can help me out, but we've given one in the fall and the spring, or 2 a year. As I sent you and showed you the 5-year collection of gross production, and as Evan brought up, we dropped from 23, fiscal year 23, we're at 4.8, then last year 2.6, and then this year projected at 2.3. So I hate trying to guess numbers, but I think it's safe to say we're going to eat into that carryover at least another 500,000, moving into that. Based on our state carryover and everything, a school our size, based on our expenditures, we ought to be around that 1.52 million mark. But we also don't want to lose out in gross production because we're not getting the state aid, so we still need to keep that fund pretty healthy. With all that being said, we've stopped all projects. We don't have anything going in general fund like we did when we had the ESSER money, building fund. So we're just holding on to everything. I still feel comfortable of giving the staff a stipend. Last year we did 1,500 certified and 750 support. We could do that. That would cost right at 200,000 if we wanted to stay with that this fall. Second half of that recommendation would be to not commit to the spring stipend at this time. Let's track our gross production more and see, and may not have anything. I'm comfortable doing that 150 or the 1,500, 750. Just to be prudent, maybe go back. Was it last year, the first year we went that high?
No, I think it was
2
years ago.
2 years ago. So if you go back to the 3 years ago, we were at 1,500. And so you're looking at a cost of the district around 135, 140,000. So
So if we see gross production go back up, we can make
adjustments
adjustments
as
to that
necessary.
as necessary.
Correct. Correct. And that's why I wanted to give you that 5-year chart where you could see where we were on general fund, where we're, you look back 5 years ago and we were still way ahead. But also I don't want oil to not be here for 3 years and now we're all of a sudden in dire straits, so that's just kind of wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable with a little something here.
Oh, absolutely.
And what we were looking at is we would do that on this Friday is payday, but then the Friday of November 22nd, give that to them right before everybody leaves for Thanksgiving break, because a lot of people take advantage of the shopping deals during that time. So it's really, as a district, 140-ish, at that 1,500, or if we want to stay where it is, and right at 200,000. And it's really completely up to you guys. I just wanted you to know exactly.
I think addressing this fall and doing a stipend and then readdressing spring where the monies are there in March, April, for that, I think would be prudent. Anybody have thoughts on dollar figure?
I would be comfortable with 1,000 and then 500. Simple fact that if we do find out that gross production stays down, then at least we've made those decisions that will allow us to continue to do some of those things.
If gross production goes back up, then we can either offer the same stipend or a healthier stipend if we can do so.
Yeah, it might give us an avenue to be able to do the spring one
Absolutely.
by holding back a little bit now, but still being able to support our staff and support staff with that. Would you like to put that in form of a motion?
You bet. I'll make a motion to, I said I would. I'll make a
Well, hold on, I just said that, and, I mean, is that in?
You can just substitute the numbers on that recommended motion listed here and just add to pay out on November 22nd. That way we can go ahead and encumber the money.
On November 22nd?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, don't say fall.
Yeah, click on 7.2.
Yeah,
and you'll see
Yeah, I
what,
see. You bet, you bet. I'll make a motion
on
to
to the
approve a biannual stipend of
No.
one
Wait, wait,
that
yeah,
out.
we need to just say just a fall
Excuse me,
stipend.
annual stipend of 1,000 or fall stipend of $1,000 for certified and professional staff and directors, and a $500 stipend for non-certified staff to be paid in the fall. November
22nd.
22nd?
Yes.
I will second that motion.
God, that was
So
me.
eloquently presented.
Wow. Wow.
Mr.
Well-
Griffin,
Yes.
Dr. Matusek,
Yes.
Mr. Simrod,
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
7.3 is regarding a long-term sub for high school special education.
Yeah, high school special education teachers having to take extended leave of absence, and so we reached out to Debbie Hickey, and she helped us out last year, 2 years ago.
2 years.
2 years ago. But anyway, she's agreed to do that again for us, and we're paying her a little bit more than we do with normal long-term subs, just because of the fact of her preparation of classroom materials, grading, following, monitoring kids, a little bit more extensive than just a daily sub.
I'll redeem myself and make a motion
Okay.
to employ Debbie Hickey as a long-term sub for the high school special education as education for as long as needed for the remainder of the 24-25 school year.
Second.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Dr. Matusek,
Yes.
Mr. Simrod,
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
You weren't forced into that second. Let the record show.
Buddy was paying attention.
I will move to adjourn.
Second?
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mr. Simrod.
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
End of,